Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Listen closely, because if a man says these words to a woman, her entire world can shift in an instant. I'm done chasing. Most men don't realize how deeply those three words hit a woman, not because she wants control, but because it exposes something she secretly fears, losing the one man who saw through her walls. Every woman, no matter how confident she appears, has a moment where she wonders if she pushed too hard, tested too long, or took a good man for granted without noticing it. And when a man finally reaches that point, the point where he stops proving, stops trying, stops explaining, it sends a shock through her mind. Because deep down, she knows men rarely walk away first. Men tolerate more than they should. They forgive mistakes they never talk about. They carry emotions they were never allowed to express. So when a man finally says he's done chasing, a woman realizes she might have underestimated the one person who actually cared. You see, women fear hearing those words because they reveal something uncomfortable, that a man's silence is louder than any argument, any apology, or any sweet line she could script. When a man stops chasing, it means he's no longer emotionally available for her patterns, her uncertainty, or her game of maybe later. And suddenly, she's confronted with the one thing she can't control, a man who finally values himself. Men who walk away from disrespect force women to see themselves clearly. Men who stop chasing create a mirror she didn't want to face. And men who protect their peace are rare enough to change a woman's behavior instantly. Women don't fear losing any man. They fear losing the man who was different, the man who stayed longer than he should have, the man who held on when other men would have quit, the man who didn't just want her body, but her growth, her softness, her honesty. Most women don't fear commitment. They fear being exposed as someone who wasn't ready for the love they were given. And when a man says he won't chase anymore, her fear isn't about losing attention. It's about losing the man who saw her potential before she saw it herself. That's why these words shake her. They remind her that even the strongest woman wants reassurance, stability, and someone who chooses her willingly, not someone she has to re-recruit every day with emotional unpredictability. Here's the truth most men never hear. Women test men because they want to feel secure, but when the test pushes him away, she panics. Not because she wanted him to fail, but because she wanted him to stay strong. And now she has to face a reality she didn't prepare for, the possibility that she pushed the wrong man away. She fears the moment he finally realizes his worth. She fears the moment he recognizes the imbalance. And she fears the moment he stops trying, because that's when she loses her power and gains clarity. So if you've ever felt like you were trying too hard for someone who didn't try for you, understand this. Walking away is not weakness. It's the moment you stop auditioning for a role you were already good enough for. Before we continue, I want to ask you something personal. Have you ever reached a point where you stopped chasing a woman because you finally saw the truth? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend who needs to hear this. There's a moment every woman hopes she never reaches. The moment she realizes the man she assumed would always be there isn't. She might not admit it out loud. She might act unbothered. She might post a smile on social media. But inside, something collapses. Because when a man who once cared finally stops trying, it forces a woman to confront the one truth she avoids the most. Effort is not infinite. Women can sense energy shifts better than anyone. They notice when your good morning texts lose warmth, when your calls become shorter, when your availability shrinks, when your eyes no longer light up the way they used to. And even if she pretends she's indifferent, trust me, she feels it. Because a woman's deepest fear isn't a man leaving, it's a man losing interest while he's still there. You want to know why those words, "I'm done chasing," terrify her? Because it means she ran out of time. She thought she had more chances. She thought you'd keep trying. She believed you'd always bend just a little bit more. But when a man stops chasing, she realizes something she never expected. She was wrong. And here's the part that hits hardest. Women don't fear losing a man they were never sure about. They fear losing the man they knew was good for them, the man who gave them security, the man who offered sincerity, the man who didn't manipulate, didn't confuse, didn't play with their emotions. Women fear losing the man who came with real intentions, because deep inside, every woman carries a quiet panic. What if I don't find someone like him again? She won't say it. She'll bury it. But that thought echoes in her mind the moment your energy changes. A man's absence is never loud at first. It's subtle. It's the missed details, the lack of enthusiasm, the calm tone instead of the emotional one, the way he listens without trying to fix things anymore, the way he stops asking questions, the way he stops reminding her what she means to him. Those little shifts become a storm she never saw coming. And when she finally realizes she pushed away a man who actually cared, panic sets in. Not because she lost attention, but because she lost stability. You see, every man who walks away teaches a woman something, and often that lesson arrives too late. What she fears most is the day you stop looking at her the way you once did. The day your heart feels tired. The day you choose peace over passion. The day you choose self-respect over hoping she'll finally change. Women don't fear men walking away. They fear men walking away with clarity. When a man becomes unavailable emotionally, it forces her to reflect on the moments she dismissed, ignored, or underestimated. That's when she begins replaying everything. The time she made you wait, the time she gave you half of what you gave her, the time she didn't show appreciation when you needed it most. That reflection is where her fear grows, because she realizes she wasn't losing a man. She was losing the version of herself she could have been if she appreciated him sooner. So hear this clearly. When you stop chasing, it doesn't just change the relationship, it changes her, and she knows it. Now let me ask you something real. Has a woman ever realized your value only after you pulled back? Drop your experience in the comments and make sure to like, subscribe, and share this with a brother who needs this reminder. There's something powerful that happens when a man stops giving unconditional access to his heart. A shift, a silence, a sudden stillness that makes a woman question everything she thought she understood about you. Because the moment you pull your energy back, she starts to feel the weight of every moment she overlooked, every effort she didn't reciprocate, and every sign she ignored simply because she assumed you'd always be available. Women rarely fear the beginning of distance. What they fear is the meaning behind it. They fear what your silence might reveal, that you're no longer willing to be the emotional safety net she once quietly relied on. And when a man who used to care deeply suddenly becomes emotionally reserved, it sends a shockwave through a woman's mind that she can't ignore. You see, women rely heavily on emotional connection, not because they're weak, but because their intuition is built on the subtle details. They pay attention to tone, to presence, to the quality of your attention. So when those things change, even slightly, she feels it instantly. The man who once texted back immediately now takes his time. The man who once noticed every detail now simply observes. The man who once offered reassurance now seems distant, grounded, almost unshakable. And that shift is terrifying for her because it means she no longer knows where she stands. Every woman fears a man finding his emotional balance, especially if she benefited from him being off balance. Because when a man stops over-investing, she must confront the real question. Was I giving enough, or was I only receiving? Here's the truth most men never get told. A woman knows when she's been giving the bare minimum. She knows when she's been distant. She knows when she let ego or fear hold her back. And she knows when you deserved better than what she offered. She just never expected you to wake up and see it clearly. Women fear the moment a man stops trying because it means he has stepped into a version of himself they can no longer manipulate with affection, distance, or emotional inconsistency. Once a man becomes emotionally self-sufficient, he becomes the one thing a woman cannot afford to lose: A man who cannot be controlled by her moods, her silence, or her approval. It's not the loss of attention she fears, it's the loss of influence, because once you stop chasing, she realizes the emotional power she had over you wasn't permanent. And that's when she starts to feel something she didn't expect: regret. Not because you left, but because she finally sees the man she overlooked, the man who was willing, loyal, and patient. And the worst part, she realizes another woman will appreciate the version of you she didn't value. Women fear competition, but not in the way men do. What she fears is the moment she realizes you could love someone else with the same intensity you once gave her. And once she imagines another woman receiving the softness, loyalty, and attention she once took for granted, that fear becomes overwhelming. When a man stops chasing, he doesn't lose value, he reveals it. So let me ask you directly, have you ever become a better, stronger version of yourself after walking away from the wrong woman? Tell me in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs this message today. There's a point in every man's life when he finally realizes his presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. And when that realization hits, everything changes. The way he speaks, the way he moves, the way he gives. Because a man who knows his worth no longer begs for love, attention, or validation. He becomes selective, calm, and almost dangerously peaceful. And that version of you is the version women fear the most. Not the angry man, not the emotional man, not the reactive man, but the quiet man. The man who no longer argues, the man who no longer explains himself, the man who no longer tries to convince someone to value him. Women fear hearing the words, "I'm done trying," because those words don't just mark the end of effort, they mark the birth of your self-respect. And a man who respects himself becomes unpredictable in the best way, because now he's operating from clarity, not emotion. A woman can read your frustration, she can read your excitement, she can read your affection, but she cannot read peace. Peace is silent, peace is controlled, peace is the version of you that she can't manipulate, distract, or confuse. Peace means she doesn't know if you still want her, or if you've already mentally let go. And that uncertainty drives her deeper into reflection than anything else ever could. When you stop chasing, she starts remembering. When you stop initiating, she starts replaying. When you stop proving, she starts evaluating. Women don't fear the moment you walk away. They fear the moment you're still there, but no longer emotionally attached. Because that's when she realizes you're no longer fighting for her. You're fighting for yourself. She starts noticing the things she overlooked, the loyalty you gave too easily, the patience she didn't fully appreciate, the consistency she thought would always be there. She starts comparing you with everyone else in her life, and suddenly the truth hits her. Men like you don't come often. That fear isn't about losing a boyfriend or a potential partner. It's about losing a man she'll think about for years. The what-if man, the "I wasn't ready yet" man, the man who forced her to confront the ways she sabotaged something real. Women fear long-term regret more than short-term heartbreak. Heartbreak fades, regret lingers, and you become the regret she wasn't prepared for. When you stop chasing, you stop feeding her comfort. And when comfort disappears, clarity appears. It's in that clarity she finally sees the pattern. You weren't asking for too much. She was offering too little. You weren't overly emotional. You were invested. You weren't needy. You were available. And now that you're no longer giving all that, she sees your value with painful accuracy. Your absence becomes the lesson. Your silence becomes the warning. Your growth becomes the consequence. And deep down, she knows one truth she wouldn't admit to anyone. The next woman who gets the version of you she ignored will be blessed. So tell me honestly, have you ever reached that peaceful stage where you stopped reacting, stopped chasing, and finally saw everything clearly? Drop your answer in the comments and make sure to like, subscribe, and share this message with a man who needs to hear it today. There comes a moment in every man's journey where he stops looking outward for validation and begins looking inward for answers. And that moment, that quiet transformation, is the exact moment a woman feels the deepest fear. Because once a man learns to love himself, protect his peace, and set boundaries, he becomes someone she cannot control, cannot predict, and cannot replace. Women fear hearing the words, "I'm done chasing," because they aren't just words. They're a declaration that the old version of you has died. The version who tolerated disrespect, the version who excused inconsistency, the version who stayed loyal while receiving the bare minimum, the version who overgave because he didn't know his own worth. That man is gone. And the man who stands in his place is someone she didn't prepare for. The new you doesn't beg. The new you doesn't fold. The new you doesn't negotiate your value anymore. You've stepped into a power that most men never discover, the power of emotional independence, the power to choose yourself, the power to walk away from anything that disturbs your inner stability. And that is the moment a woman truly understands what she has lost. Because here's the secret. Women don't attach to the man you were. They attach to the man you become after you lose her. The stronger version, the wiser version, the man with boundaries, the man with direction, the man with standards, the man who no longer needs love as badly as he once needed respect. Women fear regret more than heartbreak, and you become the embodiment of that regret. You become the lesson she teaches herself late at night, the memory she replays, the question she can't answer, the possibility she can't revisit, the man she wonders about when she's finally alone with her thoughts. And even if she never says it, she will think it. He deserved better. He grew without me, and I didn't recognize his value until it was too late. Your distance becomes discipline. Your silence becomes self-control. Your detachment becomes evolution. And that evolution forces her to face the truth about herself, that she wanted a man who loved her deeply, but she wasn't prepared to love him at the same depth, that she wanted loyalty, but didn't offer gratitude, that she wanted attention, but didn't give reciprocity, that she wanted the version of you she wasn't ready to honor. And the hardest truth, she knows the next woman who enters your life will meet a stronger, more grounded, more confident version of you, the version built from the pain she caused. That realization is the fear behind the words she never wants to hear, not because she wants to control you, but because she realizes someone else will receive the love she never learned how to handle. So when you finally say, "I'm done chasing," you are not ending a connection. You are reclaiming your identity. You are choosing peace over confusion. You are choosing clarity over chaos. You are choosing growth over cycles. And that choice will always elevate you. This is your reminder. You don't lose anything by walking away from someone who refused to meet you halfway. You gain the strongest version of yourself. Now let me ask you, man to man, soul to soul, what's the biggest lesson you learned the moment you stopped chasing the wrong woman? Share your truth in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this message with a brother who needs to hear it today.